What's up, good people and Eagle fans? Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope you all are having a good weekend. Tomorrow is Conference Championship Sunday. We've got 3 games left to the NFL season, and that's it. You know, it's crazy because I forgot that I have this canopy that's actually retractable. I've got a remote that's here that I used for the outdoor studio when we were watching games out here. We started doing this because the pandemic happened and you weren't supposed to have a whole bunch of people in a house. And so we built the outdoor studio so that way we could end up finding a way to be together yet try and keep each other safe. And that's what you have to do in life, is you have to find ways of doing things differently to get a different result. And I like to think that I am one of those people that like to think of different ways to come up with solutions, and I think a lot of times outside of the box. It's actually raining out here now, and it's kind of crazy because I remember this past week when I was back in the red brick house, we were getting snow and it was like 6 degrees at night. It was 75 degrees yesterday, and it's like 65 today. And I think maybe Tuesday there's a chance of snow. The weather, it just literally changes like crazy. I will say shout out to my wife, who tomorrow, or should I say at midnight tonight, it will be 20 years of being married, and I couldn't be happier. And I am truly blessed to have a wonderful woman by my side to go through this journey called life together. So Monday we'll be going for a couple of days of me and her time, just kind of relax. So we're going to go down to Nag's Head. I know it's the winter time, but it's going to be warmer down there than it is up here, and it'll be fun just to get away and relax. You know, I do a lot of my thinking and stuff in real time. I love driving on trips and things because it gives me a chance to really think and things. And, you know, tonight we're doing our members call-in show. If you're a channel member, you get the copy of the link where you can call in on our Saturday, or once the season's over, Sunday evening show, and you can talk about the things that you want to talk about with the Cowboys, things they're doing right or things they're doing wrong. And, you know, I was pointing out, because I saw a post today on Instagram that had Dak Prescott statistics in the playoffs: 14 TDs, 7 interceptions. Tony Pollard, 4 playoff games, 1 TD. CeeDee Lamb, 4 playoff games, 1 TD. Micah Parsons, 4 playoff games, 1 sack. D-Law, 9 playoff games, 3 sacks. And it's like our stars don't succeed when playoffs come around. And I put into that mix too Zeke Elliott, because Zeke Elliott in his playoff time has had 6 playoff games with the Cowboys and has 2 touchdowns. For some reason, our Cowboy players don't show up when it comes playoff time. I can't understand it. You know, my man Game Time Brian says it's simple, that we don't have the trenches and the linemen, that most of the winning that we do, of course, is against bad teams. And you can look at that and say, the only bad team we lost to this year was the Cardinals, who also beat the Eagles, mind you. But when you looked at us against good teams, the best team we beat during the season would be the Eagles when they were free-falling, and the Seattle Seahawks that are looking for a new coach. And so we expect a different result in the playoffs. Now, I'm trying to figure out what we can do to get better. You know, a lot of fans out there are mad as hell, and I'm getting a little bit of water that's coming this way, so I'm going to move this way just a little bit more. It's kind of like this is the end of the canopy and right there, so the water's kind of dropping behind there and over this way. The Cowboys typically in the draft do really good. But for some reason, they usually do better than most people in the first round. They usually find studs. I know Mozzie Smith would be what people are talking about, and Taco Charlton. But we'll see how Mozzie does see if there's a master plan here for him losing weight and everything else, and whoever the defensive coordinator, what the plans will be for that guy. But for the most part, the Cowboys always do well with the first round in comparison to other teams. The problem is the second round picks. And I think this always goes back to the Cowboys doing the due diligence on first round picks and making great calls. But their philosophy in the second round is flawed. And it's because a lot of times people with a lot of money, just because you think they have a lot of money, you think that they want to spend a lot of money. But nothing can be further than the truth. People with money want to hold on to the money that they have, in which case they're always looking for a bargain. And herein lies the problem for the Cowboys. The second round pick, I think they feel like, okay, we got gold in the first round. We're going to take a chance and try and get a great second round player who should be a first round. And so what they do is they look for a discounted player, somebody whose skill level may be first round talent, but for whatever reason, they fall to the second round. And you look at how they've done things. You think of Jalen Smith. A lot of teams took a look away from Jalen Smith because they said he had a catastrophic knee injury. And injuries are one of the things the Cowboys love to do. This whole injury philosophy is what's killing them. Jalen Smith had a great year with us. But throughout his time here, he had a problem with what's called drop foot. Because of the neuropathy of the knee injury, it messed up the nerve endings on his foot. And what it means is when you say drop foot, it just literally drops. He had to wear a brace that would literally help pull it back in place, and became a problem when he had to cut, plant, or drive. You would see Jalen Smith, who had all the instincts in the world and the desire, but he couldn't bring a load because of that foot. You can think about somebody like Sean Lee, who, incredible linebacker, incredible mind, and very instinctual, but had knee injury issues in college that followed along in the NFL. And the Cowboys, in recent history, continue to do contracts, big contracts with guys that are injured. We're sitting here as we debate whether or not we should pay Dak Prescott, who did have a catastrophic foot injury, who's come back to lead the NFL in touchdown passes while still being really low in interceptions. Basically 4 TDs to 1 interception, an incredible ratio. And we debate on whether or not we should pay him when we paid Jalen Smith, had to cut him and then paid for him for another 2 years. We think about a guy like Lyle Collins, who was injured. We paid him, and of course he ended up getting released later on. You can think about how we went through Tony Pollard and franchise tagged him with a foot that was injured after having an injury history. We think about Terrence Steele, who we signed for $82 million while he was recovering from an ACL. Now with Michael Gallup, I love Michael Gallup. I met Michael Gallup in Atlanta at the Super Bowl because he was doing work and stuff with United Way. I root for Michael Gallup. I love the way Michael Gallup used to be able to get downfield and really elevate himself. But since he got his contract, coming back from that ACL, he's not anywhere near where he should be. And this is where you look at the Cowboys and say, you do so many things wrong. Because if you had actually looked at the production of Michael Gallup from his second year, that it was constantly going downhill. But you paid him like a guy who was going uphill while he was injured. And so now we look at this and people will say, well, we can cut him and save $9 million. You're not saving $9 million. You're just spreading out $13 million over 2 seasons. That's a miscalculation that hurts you. And going back to the second round picks, we ended up looking at a guy like Randy Gregory, who should have been a top 10 pick, but he ended up testing positive for weed during the combine. And what you have to understand is, that's pretty stupid. That is the biggest interview of your lifetime. The combine, if you're a 5th round pick versus a 1st round pick, the money is huge difference. You're telling me you couldn't have yourself straight for that job interview? But the Cowboys looked at it and said, you know what? He's a first-round talented guy. We'll take a chance on him. And never got much out of him. You look at a guy like Jabril Cox. Well, no, I'm not sorry, not Jabril Cox. I'm not going to put him in that one. His problem was injuries after he got here. But Boss Man Fat, there were a few flags that were there. You know, his whole rap thing and everything else. And again, another guy that you're still paying that is not on the roster and never did anything for you. We talked about Jalen Smith. We talked about, let's see, who else? Came out of Central Florida. Tristan Hill. Tristan Hill was kind of discounted because he had a problem listening to his coaches. Immediately, we drafted him, brought him here, and Rod Marinelli basically got him signed a contract to say, I'm going to practice. And every time we have looked at signing a guy a contract when they're injured, it has not panned out for us. And this goes back to where these rich people think they're smarter than everybody else and are trying to get a bargain. How about this? Instead of franchise tagging a Tony Pollard when you think that he is going to be great, but he's coming back from an injury, how about you wait and see what he's going to be like? Instead of going through and saying, you know what, I'm going to get rid of Amari Cooper and let Cedric Wilson go, but I'm going to pay a guy who's currently got an ACL injury and may not be ready to start the season. Maybe you should wait and see how this player is until after they come back from the injury before signing to a big contract. You follow me? I hope that Terrence Steele gets back to where he was, but a lot of games against better competition, he looked like a human turnstile. Guys are going through. And this is one of those problems where we can't afford to mess up. Now, I guess if there's any good news, the big contracts that we need to dole out, Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb, are guys that are at least going into the offseason healthy. So maybe there's that. But in a year that you took your 2 fifth-round draft picks and you traded away your 4th-round draft pick for quarterback from San Francisco, you can't afford to waste your 2nd-round pick. You can't afford to say, we're going to try and get 1st-round talent on a guy who's fallen for injuries or character issues. You need to get somebody that works. That's the bottom line. Now, you can be mad at Micah and say trade him. You can be mad at Dak Prescott and say trade him. But you have to look at this and say, people's solution to fixing the Dallas Cowboys are taking the best players, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, and Dak Prescott, and getting rid of them and then getting draft picks. Do I have that right? Because I'm asking for a friend. It makes no sense, good people. It's easier to surround the good players you have with other good players than to get rid of them and have to rebuild the whole team, because that's what we're talking about. And the final thing I'll put in here is I asked, as people were saying after Jesse Holley's whole thing that Micah Parsons is selfish, the guy who performed the best on your defense, who got 100 plus pressures, who got 14 sacks, that your complaint is he's not able to play perfection in 2 positions and that he's not putting in literally ran out of memory, so it shut off, so I had to start it back up. That's why I can't wait to get my new phone. Get the S24 Ultra in a couple of days. I pre-ordered that, so I can't wait to check that out and see how it does. It's supposed to do better at night photography, so that'll be great out here doing my fireside chat. And I need to hurry up and finish this because I see water is kind of filling up in here. But anyway, how about we ask the other guys to do a little bit more? Because didn't nobody have a great game in that game? Y'all's solution is make one guy play multiple positions. put that back out. It's in my pocket and I accidentally turned it on. Okay, there we go. Got to keep myself dry. How about we ask the other guys on the team to help pick up some more of the slack instead of just hitting that one guy? Because the way people make it out, and this is where people are basically treating Micah Parsons like they treat Dak, is we're saying that one guy is supposed to do it all. Sorry. He didn't have a great game, but I can't look and say that 10 other guys were having a perfect game, and if only Micah Parsons had played well, then we would have won. And that's the travesty here that people don't seem to recognize. They want to have this whole mob mentality and just point the finger at one person and say that person is the problem, when it's talent all the way around. So that's all I have to say about that. And it's beginning to rain a little bit harder, and I should probably get out of here before I catch pneumonia because I don't want to be sick on my little anniversary trip with my beautiful bride. Anyway, we're going to be working on doing some things a little bit differently. We're already, with my man Game Time Brian, and I think Primetime Phil may be going too, planning on a trip to the draft in Detroit. We're going to be looking at going to training camp, and we're going to be looking to keep pressure on the Joneses that they've got to do better than what they're doing. In the meantime, remember to tell the people you love how much you love them, because you might not get the chance again, guys. Life is short, life is precious. I'm so glad that I get to spend some of my life with you guys, because I love you all. And God willing, I will see y'all tomorrow. Meantime, I'll get this thing back in here, because you leave this thing out here in the wind, like really bad wind, or if it's really raining, it'll fill up with too much water, and it might collapse. In fact, I should watch out for the water that's about to drop here and not get it on my camera. Peace. We're going to get a lot of rain. They're calling for 2 inches of rain tonight and tomorrow. So that ain't good. Oh, peace.